Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Drop Lob Pod. My name is Edik Perbikin, and I'm joined by my co-host Nathan, who's joining us from a beautiful, disclosed location. So, thank you, Nathan, for being with us today. We have a lot to discuss, and let's get right into it. And let's start with the match of the day, which was Carlos Alcaraz putting up his number one ranking in the world against Yannick Sinner. And I want to hear from you on your thoughts on that match with Sinner taking it 7-6, 6-3, overtaking Carlos for the number one ranking in the world now. And he has won, if you include the Six Kings Slam, the last three matches that they've played against one another.
Yeah, as we just kind of discussed before we started, not the most surprising result. We talk about them every week, and they're obviously almost inevitable to meet in the finals. Sinner kind of doing his thing where he dominates every single match against lower level opponents. Carlos playing with his food, so to speak, kind of he didn't really have any scares this tournament. I think he only saw one third set against Ectovary coming into the finals, but he was pretty in control of all of his matches, but just not quite reaching that dominant level that Sinner was. And I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong that the last match that they had on clay before this was that French Open where Sinner really did dominate like until the very last points, quite literally. At which point Alcaraz really just flipped a switch and it became a mental game and then a game of fitness and like a 6 hour battle. But Sinner almost kind of has the edge on him on clay right now, which is quite interesting. I think that as they're growing as players, like we're kind of reevaluating their games. Carlos, I think almost maybe we just expected him to be the king of clay because we kind of equate Carlos to Rafa, and Rafa obviously was just unbeatable. But Carlos has his cracks. Like Zverev took him to five in the French Open finals, like the year before. Sinner, obviously, three match points. So yeah, right now I think that Clay is Sinner's for the taking. We all know he missed the 3 months last year with the doping scandal that he may or may not have been guilty of. And so he has per, sorry, he can gain points from all of these tournaments. He's not defending any points. So he's overtaken the number one. The gap is going to grow in the next month or so. Um, but yeah, he hit the ball harder today. He hit the ball cleaner. He served better. I feel like these two also have kind of got into a pattern of going to tie breaks like every first set, which is kind of interesting. Like they start very warm. And then in the second set it becomes more of a break fest. So it was fun to watch per usual. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. Um I think we get deceived by the fact that Alcaraz won the French Open and then won the US Open against Sinner. But if Sinner had won that French Open match, he would have won French, Wimbledon, Six King Slam, ATP Finals, and then this match would have been five out of the last six. So I definitely think that, Sinner's in control of this rivalry right now. That's not to say that Alcaraz didn't have his chances today. He broke right away. He was up 2-0. He had a lot of chances to finish off the first set. He was up 3-1 in the second set and 30-15, and just couldn't capitalize. And there were many games where he was up 40 love or even had break points where he had opportunities to close and he just didn't have that killer instinct to do that. I don't honestly think that Sinner played all that well. I'm not going to say like Alcaraz lost it, but I think it was a combination of Alcaraz just not being like fully intense enough to win this match and Sinner just being consistent enough to get it done. Sinner did really well serving down the tee on the deuce side. Alcaraz was struggling with his returning serve and he was standing so far back, and honestly was really worried that he might injure himself on the tarp, obviously at the back of the clay court, a la David Goffin. It's nice to see them back in finals together, but Carlos is really going to have to respond, in due time. And I think that Sinner, with all these matches they play against each other, I feel like Sinner is just the safe bet. Like you don't know what you're going to get with Alcaraz. And lately, he's been disappointing, if I'm being quite honest.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. That's what keeps the cycle going. He's a little bit more talented and a little bit more inconsistent. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how they flip flop. And I guess at this point, I think it's safe to say they'll be flip flopping for the coming like decade unless somebody wants to throw their hat in the ring.
Yeah. And I think another big storyline from this tournament was Valentin Vachereau. Obviously, he's the native of Monaco. For those who don't know, Vachereau was a strong player for Texas A&M, and then he was sitting around the 200s and 100s until he made his breakout last year in Shanghai, I believe, at the ATP
Yeah.
1000 tournament. And ever since then, he's been on a streak. He's had tons of top victories. And just for me, I find it really surprising for someone who was in the game and playing matches on the Challenger Tour to somehow just now be competing with the world's best and winning these matches. It's rare. He's almost like the only one ever on the men's tour to flip a switch like that and be able to start winning these matches after having no success. So I'm just curious as to what you think it is, if you have any conspiracy theories around that or not, and if you think he's going to continue at this level.
I mean, he goes for broke, which we've definitely seen a couple times on the women's tour. Like I said, like Caroline Garcia kind of did that and got really high up, like players to just kind of turn their game into just an absolutely ultra aggressive game style, catch their opponents off guard, and just go for every winner, stand inside the baseline on every second serve return, like serve sometimes even huge second serves, kind of going for more aces, like kind of how Maxine Cressy stayed in the top 100 for a little bit. Obviously, these two not similar game styles, but I mean, like Thatcher is hitting a lot of winners. He's going for really small margins, and he's just simply not missing the ball when he does. Like, do I think it's sustainable? No. Do I think we'll see him stay in his spot? Absolutely not. And I think that the pressure that's going to mount for him to defend these points the second time around is going to be kind of miserable for him, to be perfectly honest. I think that there might not be anything more nerve wracking, like almost any other sport, than being a tennis player, having to defend the points that got you to where you are. Like a stretch like Marco Trungelliti next year is probably going to have absolute hell in the month of like late March, early April, trying to defend like this run of 12 straight match wins that he had. Because it's like it's life changing money for him, for these guys to be able to qualify into the Grand Slams as he is, to be able to like play on the main draw. And it's all going to come down to, can he win his first match in Shanghai? Can he win his first match in Monaco next year? If the answer to both those is no, he's going to drop like 70 spots. I mean, he doesn't even really like his first serve is really flat. His second serve isn't anything crazy. Like his ground strokes, he kind of like takes them on the rise and just goes for lines once again. And keeps the pressure on his opponents. But I know it's like hard to attribute success to a flurry of opponents all making mistakes because the odds of that are relatively unlikely, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. And I feel like when I watch him play, his opponents just kind of suck. And that's honestly like, yeah, I'm taking away from his game. And I know that's like being not cool maybe towards him. And I definitely respect his accomplishments because, you know, he achieved them. So he achieved them. But I absolutely do not expect him to continue to achieve those on a consistent basis in years come.
Yeah, I agree with you. And he's obviously trying to rack up as many points as possible between now and Shanghai when he has literally, he can only gain points. Like it's impossible for him to move down the rankings unless people pass him, but he's not going to lose any points, realistically speaking. Another person I wanted to discuss as someone who was highly touted and a potential challenger, still possibly for Alcaraz and Sinner, is one Holger Rune, because it was announced that his comeback is going to be happening in mid to late May in Hamburg, a 500 tournament. And this is off the backs of a Achilles tear at the end of last season. And when I was just doing the math, this would be like max an 8 month turnaround, which is simply incredible. Would love to get your thoughts on whether you think he's just superhuman or you think this is just really short-sighted in him coming back so quickly because the likes of Kobe, Tatum on the Celtics, guys who just have like the best resources at their fingertips have not come back this fast. And I have skeptical hippo eyes in terms of how he's coming back this fast, and whether or not it's going to work out.
I believe Tatum came back relatively like maybe 10 months. And I think that Kevin Durant, who's like in his 30s, we're going basketball now for these references because I think Achilles tears are much more common in basketball. Also came back like maybe 10 months. So yeah, it's super quick. He's young. It's probably overly ambitious. He was on Instagram like a week after his injury already, like doing some crazy training, trying to make sure that he was keeping ready and in shape for the season, which is great. Like it's great that he's so motivated. He's such a hard worker. It's what's gotten him so hard, so high in the rankings. Like I don't really think it's ever been purely his talent. He's a very good athlete and a very hard worker. Like he always had like thunder quads and thighs and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in the scheme of things, like he's made a ton of money. He had Mortoglu as a coach. Like obviously his family has money behind already. So it's definitely not about the financial gain. And you're not going to realistically beat Alcaraz and Sinner in this state anyway. So if you're not playing for titles and you're not playing for money, coming back this early just to come back doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. I think that erring on the side of caution just would make more sense because as a player of his caliber that already reached the top 10, that's beaten Center, that's beaten Alcaraz, that's proven he can do everything, the expectations on him are still sky high. And if you're not going to satisfy your fans, yourself, money, or ranking, what are you coming back for? You're literally risking injury. Like I'm a huge Orlando Magic basketball fan. My favorite player, Franz Wagner on the team, like he came back early from an ankle injury because he wanted to play in front of his home fans in Germany and immediately injured himself again. Like was out 20 games, played one game, was out another 30. It was absolutely not worth. He even went in an interview and said, "I wish I hadn't done that." So, um, yeah, bad idea in my opinion. But I'm not his doctor. I'm not him. I hope it works out. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that ultimately one of the reasons why he's trying to come back so quick is just for the storyline of like, I'm coming back so quick. Look at me and I'm like superhuman. I will say that past guest Ugo um was texting me and he believes that Rune is going to win a Grand Slam within the next 2 years. He thinks he's going to be the one to challenge Alcaraz and Sinner, which was a pretty bold take. But as the men were in Monte Carlo, we had a few storylines on the women's side with one of Nathan's favorite players, Mira Andreeva, taking the title in Linz. And the only reason why I was able to accept that victory by Andreeva is because all of my girls, Potapova, Vekic, and Vekic had great tournaments, and both of them are back in the 60s. I believe Potapova is back in the 50s in the rankings. Just curious if you think that this, title for Andreeva will carry over at all into some of the bigger tournaments heading into Roland Garros, and if you feel like she can gain some confidence from this.
Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, even I had kind of given up some hope on her. Uh, I wasn't 100% expecting it, but I was thrilled to see it. She played very good tennis. She once again is probably overly defensive on the forehand side and backhand, a lot of slices. She got very crafty this week. It worked in her favor, but even still doing things like losing a set to Potapova 6-1, like it's not going to hold up on the biggest stage. I mean, at this point, I just think that she's not beating Sabalenka and she's not beating Mboka really anytime they play. She's not really even beating Mukova the majority of the time they play. I think that she can carry the confidence, but she has the ability to win majors. She is very talented. She's tall, she serves well, she moves well, she has solid ground strokes, but it's kind of she's almost kind of settled into that female Alexander Zverev role, which is probably part of why you hate on her so much, and that they just have this like untapped potential where they just need to be aggressive in the big moments and they refuse to. And until I see that from her, I'm not going to believe that she'll make it deep in a tournament. And also, there are other similarities, just that the mental game crumbles so hard when it does crumble. And that's tough to see. But yeah, I think she can carry momentum, but I can't say for sure if she will, honestly. At this point, I'm very in limbo about what she'll do on any given day.
Well, I appreciate you being honest about that. I think it would be like really alarming if she didn't win a tournament like this because she was by far the best player in this draw. So kudos to her for at least stepping up and doing what she was expected to do. I like the comparison between Zverev and yeah, just to follow up on something you said a couple of weeks ago, like 100% now Zverev, I feel like has completely forgotten the idea of actually winning a slam. Like for that to happen at this point, he would like win it without beating Carlos or Sinner. And now he's just making a ton of money, being the third, maybe the third best player on the tour. I mean, he's lost to Sinner like 5 or 6 times in a row now. Like it's just rough. He's meeting Sinner every single time in the semis, and it's just like it's just, I mean, what's more certain, Sinner beating Zverev or the Magic losing in the playing tournament to the Sixers. So, we'll see what happens. I wanted to talk, I don't know if you saw it, but the Billie Jean King Cup, the qualifiers were going on during this week as well, and there were some really interesting results. Um, Starting with the Team USA, who decided to play Iva Jovic and Kessler as their main duo for this tie against Belgium. And they ended up getting crushed. They lost 3-1. Iva Jovic lost twice, one in the final match to Greet Minin, and Kessler retired 3-3 in the third against Elise Mertens. These ladies were obviously favored. They're probably the best team other than Italy. So I just wanted to know what you thought about that, if you even care about Billie Jean King Cup, and how surprised you were that they lost to Belgium.
I mean, I definitely kind of learned to care, like got invested just because they hosted it at the national campus back when I worked there. I got like very immersed in it. And it's like, for those that don't know, it's kind of similar like Davis Cup on men's tennis or like World Cup for soccer or whatever. It's just like a very big like national competition. There are so many events for it throughout the year. It's very hard to keep track as to what event has what meaning. But I did see that Eva got smacked twice. Did not see that Kessler retired. Obviously, that's not us putting out our A team, but you know, it is what it is. I actually will have to ask you if we get another opportunity, anything after that. I assume we do because I don't think we'd give it up that easily. But definitely very disappointing performance by her. People expect a ton out of Jovic, and she's been kind of on the cusp of delivering a couple times, but she can't really break through that barrier. On a side note, for those that haven't seen, which I'm sure is everyone, if you want to see the worst second serve you've ever seen in the history of tennis, please check out Bianca Andreescu's second serve on match point against Julia Punseva in the third set tiebreak of a 3 hour and 30-minute match, down 4-6. She shanked it off of her racket. I think that would actually be a very interesting video to show people in terms of the mechanics of a tennis player serve and how much you pronate or like snap your wrist, because the direction her wrist was pointed in when she hit the ball was like outside of the court to the right. She hit it off her frame and hit it like to the baseline in the right side alley while she was supposed to be serving to the deuce court. Has to be a top five worst serve I've ever seen in my life.
100% agree with you on that. And I was going to bring it up. My other girl, Putintseva, beat Andreescu, who barely beat in her first tie, like a lady from Kazakhstan who's like 1,000 in the world. I think she won like 4 and 5. Yeah, Andreescu just major choke on match point with a terrible double fall, and Kazakhstan beat Canada. I think another crazy tie was um, the Czechia or Czech Republic beating Switzerland. Bencic had 3 match points to win the whole tie against Noskova. Noskova ended up winning that match, and then Buskova beat Golubic. But when I was watching the Andreescu one, and I'd just like to have this discussion real quick, get your thoughts about who is the worst one-hit wonder on the women's side in terms of Grand
Dude,
Slams.
this is not even questionable. You already know the
Hold on a
answer.
second. Let me just preface this by saying, hold,
Even the player who
hold
is the
on.
answer knows she's the answer.
Hold on. So for those who don't know, a one-hit wonder is basically someone who won one Grand Slam that was really not expected to and has not won anything since. And I'm gonna give 3 players as a potential to pick from. One of those is Bianca Andreescu, who won the US Open. It should be noted that she also won a thousand tournament that year as well. After that, had a myriad of injuries and has really not done anything. I will add Sloane Stevens to the mix, who did win a thousand,
Ooh.
or sorry, who did also win
Mm.
this open against Madison Keys and pretty much did nothing after that. And then I'm going to add Emma Raducanu, who also won the US Open, all these US Open winners, who has stayed around but hasn't made a final since. Um, I guess you could throw Kennan in there as well, but she made the French Open final right after it, and I think she stayed relatively relevant. So give me your answer. And you can answer somebody else too.
Well, I was leaning hard towards Emma Raducanu, but I forgot that Sloane Stevens won a major. Yeah, Emma Raducanu has the worst mentality of any of them that won a major in the sense that she whines a lot. She went in the media. She said she wished she hadn't won the major. She said that the backlash that came with winning and the expectations were way too high and way too much, which is respectable. And like I do understand where she's coming from, but she just like every single time she's close to a final, she mentally crumbles. Andreescu, yeah, she just kind of lost her game. She's been injured a lot, as you said, and like her game is not even really like crazy well suited for the US Open. I think if anything, this entire segment is just a testament to like how long and grueling the tennis season is. It really just knocks out those top players and leaves the door open at the US Open for someone to kind of slide in and win the tournament unexpected since it's happened so many times. But I'm gonna have to change my mind based on the props you gave. It's gonna be Sloane Stevens. Sloane Stevens is talented for sure. I can see how she's had her moments, but she's fallen off an absolute cliff. She's ranked outside like the top 750 in the world right now. Any bid she gets in any tournament is a wild card. She can barely win a match. She just scraped by like 38-year-old Tatana Maria 6-4 in the third set of a clay court match where Maria is like completely uncomfortable last week. Like Maria was I had that match on. Maria was literally slicing high slices to like the service line and Sloane Stevens couldn't win points anyway. Um yeah, she's horrible to watch right now. I think her only win of the 2 wins of this season have come against a half retired Jen Brady and a soon to be retired Tatana Maria. Um so yeah, and I mean like Sloane's like I think maybe 30, 31, whatever. Like she's not that old. She moves like she doesn't want to be on a tennis court. She hits like she doesn't want to be on a tennis court. She looks like she doesn't want to be on a tennis court. She never really came that close to replicating her success again. Um, so yeah, I mean, like, when people when you win a major, you win a major. Like, regardless of the circumstances, you did it and it's an accomplishment, it's incredible, and you hold that. But yeah, geez, like if you were to just give me odds right now of who I felt was least likely to win another major out of active players that did win one, like surprisingly, like out of that list, Sloane would be by and far the longest odds to win.
Yeah, I agree with you because at least with Andreescu, like she's trying, but it is crazy to see like how much worse just her serve alone has gotten since you watch that US Open match and like she was serving well. Like you can't win a Grand Slam without your serve being like at least decent. And now she like can't make a serve. Like and she's changed the motion. It's just like it's just crazy. But we're not trying to hate on these ladies. They're all Grand Slam champions, right? But I think it's worth debating. Like, would you rather have someone's career like, I don't know, say, um, let's say someone like Elise Mertens, or would you rather have Raducanu's career?
Burns.
Yeah,
I'd 100% trade longevity for one big accomplishment. Like
right.
maybe in 30 years, it'll be more fun to be able to say I won a major when nobody really remembers the rest of your career outside of it. You're just like a name on a trophy and an accomplishment. But the other players, like, they get more financial stability, they get big wins, they get accolades, like, they actually have less expectations almost, still get to achieve more success. They always have a chance at maybe still breaking through sometime in the future. And yeah, it's just probably more satisfying, like as a player, to be that person. Like you can
100%.
afford a full team, you know where you're going to be playing your tournaments every year. Um, and yeah, like you just get to leave more matches happy. Like it's also like once you have that high of winning a major, you're gonna want that high of winning a major again. And it's like you're not achieving that. You kind of know that like your glory days, your best times are behind you. Like that's can't be a great feeling for
Yeah.
those players.
I agree with you because like, okay, if you win once, like what's that really proving? Like, does it even prove everything? It's basically like that's why we call it one hit wonder because you kind of got lucky and you did nothing after. Whereas like if you're consistent over your career, that's to me a lot more impressive, especially on the women's side. On the men's side, I might give it a little bit more if you win one Grand Slam like Dominic Thiem. But anyway. I think that we should get into some drop or lob. You good with that?
Yeah, I will just say with like winning a major, I think it just proves like you have a high talent ceiling. But honestly, like over a long career, where your floor is more important than where your ceiling is. Especially in tennis, like what makes the top 100 isn't even necessarily their ceiling. Like I know this is like maybe confusing for some people to catch up with, but I would say the top 10 are the top 10 because of their ceiling. Everybody outside of maybe the top 10, it's more about where their floor is compared to everybody between like 100 and even 500 um in comparison to like their height. Like I think like everybody from rank maybe even like 50 to like 250 can pull out crazy winners, big serves, whatever.
Yeah, no,
Uh
I
uh
totally,
well, it
what's
seems
that?
like I got lost for a second, but yeah, as I was saying, like it's about the floor, it's not about the ceiling. There are a bunch of guys that can hit those big shots, but it's it's really about who can do it consistently that keeps them up at the top. So I think that sometimes those talents, there may be more of like 100 in the world type talent, will have those runs, and that's how you see that like crazy major winner. It's how you see Trungelliti winning 12 matches in a row. That's how you see like whatever else happens. It's maybe out of the ordinary, but seeing who does it year after year is what makes you
Yeah,
what you
no,
are.
I definitely agree with you on that. All right, so gonna finish up with some drop or lob. I got some good ones for
Now
you.
I'm ready. All right. Yep.
I
Ready
got some
now.
good ones for you today. All right, so I'll start easy. Drop or lob for the 1,000 tournaments on the men's side for the rest of the clay court swing. Someone outside Sinner or Alcaraz will win one.
So I just want to point out to everybody right now, I'm up at my friend's house in North Carolina. That's the undisclosed location in the mountains. So you can see this beautiful view down below me right here. I'm dropping it so hard it would go down below the ground right there. Uh, that I'm dropping it from this balcony. Huge drop.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Drop or lob. The new partnership of Iga and one of Nadal's old coaches will result in her winning two titles on the clay court swing.
That is a very good question. You said a great number there with two. I'm gonna drop it. Iga's still having a terrible season. Sabalenka still looks amazing. Mukova's still on her way up. We're yet to see what Mboko can do on clay. Mira still kind of got her hat a little bit in the ring. I know I said that I wasn't sure what I'll get out of her, but it doesn't mean I can't find upside. And honestly, like, what have Nadal's coaches done for everyone else? Like, what did Tony Nadal do for Felix? I believe that they split well before Felix kind of skyrocketed up. Like, at the end of the day, like, yes, Nadal obviously had a good team for Nadal, but what made Nadal, like, Tony was his uncle, and obviously they had a good connection and they had a good like a good understanding of each other and what they needed. But Nadal's success, like, there's a reason why all the greatest athletes don't become coaches, because sometimes what they need to succeed is just to like understand games on another level and just be like, why don't you just do this insane thing that I do that's like hard to replicate? I don't really know how good his coaches specifically were and how much of it was him. And I don't really know how much of a change one coach is going to make to turn Iga from losing in the first round of a tournament against Magdalena to beating Sabalenka in the next tournament she plays. So I'm going to drop it again. Obviously, she's had great clay court success, I believe, 4 French Open titles. So I would love to be proven wrong. It's fun to see Iga at the top of her game. She's a robot.
I like that analysis, and I couldn't agree more. This specific coach that's helping out Iga was helping Raducanu before, was helping Pesci Pericard, and the results are okay. All right.
Oh,
Drop.
wait, real quick.
Yes.
Didn't he just leave Mapeshi without telling him?
Yes. He did the old little ghost, like you might ghost a girl or a guy that you're talking to. Um,
I was about to say get ghosted, but anyway. Yeah, I
so
believe he made a poster, put out a statement saying that he found out from his agent that his coach had left him. It's a little bit unprofessional, and once again, maybe doesn't give me the utmost of confidence
right.
in
All
the
right,
coach.
two more for you. Drop or lob, Djokovic will play two clay court tournaments before the French Open.
I'm gonna lob. I mean, he did miss Monte Carlo here. I would expect him to play Rome, and I would expect him to play. Well, Madrid's already going on. I don't know if he's in the draw for Madrid. I think that actually makes a big difference. I would assume he's not. I don't really think Djokovic at this point in his career plays anything under 1,000. Um, are there any other thousands upcoming besides Rome on the clay courts?
Yes, Madrid is 1,000 as well.
I thought it was a 500 going on right now, or maybe there's 1,000 after the 500.
So right now, this next week, there's two 500s, one in Munich and one in Barcelona. And then after that, Madrid. And then after that, Rome, both 1,000s.
I think he'll play Madrid and Rome. Um, but then again, he might only play Rome. I believe he usually does play Rome. So I'm gonna lob just to put a lob in there, but to be perfectly honest, I decently expect to be proven wrong by him only playing Rome.
That's fair. All right, last drop or lob for you. Drop or lob? Darren Cahill is the best coach on the ATP tour right now.
Drop and drop. I mean, center incredible. He is. I will tell you that I'm significantly less versed in coaches than you are. So this is a question that I'm gonna have to redirect to you after as well. Um, I'm about to drop the boldest take of the podcast right then. Is Sinner still on his bullshit? Was he on bullshit before? Like, I mean, I don't know how much of it's coaching. Like, he still just gets unbelievable power and unbelievable movement. And I know he's got long arms. I know he's tall. I know his technique is great. And it's like one of those situations, like with like freaking, we'll go to baseball now. Like, the steroid era with Barry Bonds, with whatever, Ken Griffey, where like the guys are incredible, whether or not they're doing a little extra to get over the top. And I know that tennis drug tests like crazy, and I'm sure they drug test him 3 times as hard as everyone else. So I'm sure I'm just tossing conspiracy out for the fun of getting a click or two, but I don't know how much Sinner's on his bullshit and how much do you really have to coach greatness like that. Like greatness is greatness. Like I don't really think that I've seen Sinner turn around. Like I know he hit like 2 drop shots against Zverev. They were pretty nice, but Sinner preached last year after he lost to Alcaraz this whole like I'm gonna add more variety to my game. I'm gonna change paces, change angles, drop more, lob more, whatever. I haven't really seen him do much of it. He's kind of still just hit ball as hard as I can straight through opponent and know that I am more talented than you and that I'll outlast you. Let's see if Darren Cahill is working on his fitness. Let's see if he gets into a five setter deep in a major, if he suddenly has that fitness to get through that match. And that'll tell me something about how much Cahill's been working with him. I'm really impressed with what's gone on with Felix's rise up the rankings. Damn, dude. I mean, whoever the hell's, and you can probably tell me whoever's been coaching Bastro, that's a better job than whatever Cahill's doing with center. Dude made him a
Yeah.
freaking superhero overnight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I listen, I
so
love
I'm
your
leaving
take.
that. And I believe I may have disconnected again.
That's all right. We can hear you. So, I love your hot takes when, you sounding like me, which is awesome. And in terms of the coaching, yeah, I think sometimes coaches get too much credit, especially if they're, coaching against a top or coaching a top guy. Whereas, yeah, someone who you've built through the ranks, and helped improve. And yeah, listen, I think I think it's very interesting what you're saying about, what these guys are taking and what they're not taking. So, we will continue this discussion next week. We have a couple tournaments that are upcoming, and of course, all of this clay season comes to a head with the French Open. But for right now, it's Sinners
Yeah.
Week. And for anybody following basketball, both Nathan and I teams are gonna be, doing some
Uh,
damage soon.
we potentially, I'm an Orlando Magic fan, he's Philadelphia 76ers. We have the potential to not have to play them in a do or die game. We'll see. But real quick before we log off, since we had a very coach centric episode, I do have one last question for you to let you kind of drop a hot take on the way out. American Nisesh Basavaridi lost both his coach and his fitness trainer in the span of a week in very odd fashion. Nisesh kind of cracked the top 100 last year, very solid player, dipped back off this year. His coach left him and made an Instagram, kind of a cryptic Instagram post. And his fitness trainer went in and did the same thing like a day or two later. I was wondering if you either had any just information about it or insight or thoughts as to what can make something like that happen. Because it seemed like Nisesh done fucked up, so to speak.
I don't have any information on that. I am sorry, but I would be remiss if we didn't talk about or mention just how bad is Daniel Medvedev.
Oh my
Because
God. Hey guys, we
him
faked you
losing
out.
0
We said we
0,
were going to end a podcast and now we're right back into it. That's a new one.
him losing 0 0 in less than an hour. I mean, that is bad. That
You
is
know, that's
really
only
bad.
like that was the first time that happened to a top 10 player since Tomas Burdick lost 0-0 to David Goffin when Burdick was ranked number 9 back in 2016. And I only figured that out because Boris Becker straight up made a post and was like, holy shit, Daniil, that was terrible. And then tagged him in the post on Twitter. It was like, as that happened before? And everybody was like, Boris, you really had to tag Daniil in this? Which was hilarious, by the way. Absolutely
Listen,
hilarious.
that just goes to prove how hard it is to lose 0-0. I mean, the guy's like a 15 UTR with a big serve, and you still can't win one game against
It's
Berrettini,
Berrettini
who
on
we know
clay.
doesn't have a backhand. He
On
chipped it
clay.
on
He's not even a
clay.
clay player.
How does that
He lost to
happen?
Ignacio Boost like 2 weeks ago.
How does that happen? At least I was talking to Matt, ex guest, and I said at least extend it to over an hour where it looks like it was competitive, you know? Um,
I
it's
mean, I saw a comment from a kid that I know that bets on sports, and he was like, I had a Berrettini to win a set, and I woke up and saw that the match highlights were only 49 minutes on tennis TV and figured Berrettini played one set and retired. Clicked in and was like, holy fucking like
yeah.
yeah, that's I texted my mom actually the morning after, like huge tennis person the one that got me into it, and was like, hey, have you ever seen this before? This has to be one of the most shocking score lines in tennis history. And of course, you had the gamblers calling match fixing, which would just be the dumbest way ever to fix a match.
He
Because
doesn't.
trust me,
Why would? Yeah.
I've talked to a person that fixed a match before and did it in a pretty dumb fashion, and I got to say that doing it how Medvedev did would be even dumber than that. Um, so that would have been really really dumb. I think he tried physically, mentally, obviously, maybe not so much. But yeah, he was just an inch off all day. I'm interested to see if maybe he was injured, if maybe he sits out the next tournament, either was really injured or just claims it anyway. Because honestly, there are very few things that can make a pro athlete forego the chance at like hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the claim that I was injured to avoid the embarrassment from that could be one of those things.
Yeah.
Um,
It's it's possible, definitely worth noting. And you know what? We'll see how he bounces back. But even Nathan got two games against me, right? So
maybe Daniil should get Nasesh Basavarese coaches. I heard they're open for hire right now.
he might be back in business with his old coach.
Yeah, and on that note, I think that we'll carry on the rest of this next week because if we start talking again, we're going to film an entire episode after the episode. So
Yeah.
I know we've been giving you guys every 2 weeks. We'll do our best to get on next week. Edic's pretty busy right now. I'm traveling around a little bit, but since the Masters tournaments, for the most part, kind of last 2 weeks, we found it easier to just recap at the end. We got a couple 500s next week, so we'll do our best to be there, but we'll at least see you guys in 2 weeks either way.
Yep. Thanks, guys.